Today we're going to be going through scoring a soundtrack for our tutorial in our video game Dracs After Dusk at Olive Hill Studios. So this is a game that our team, myself and my two older brothers, Eric and Andy, have been working on since the game jam we entered in about 6 months ago. They've been doing all of the programming and coding, visual game development, storyline, character, animation, you name it. I simply come in and add some sound effects and soundtracks and brainstorm and collaborate on different ideas and themes and stories that we want. Before we get into the soundtrack, let's take a look at the premise of the video game to familiarize yourself with what we've been working on. Graham Christopher Moore, the shakiest gun in the West, finds himself reluctantly making a last stand against an onslaught of vampires at dusk. Survive against increasing waves of vampires by gunning them down with your pistol, repairing doors and windows, and buying turrets to help you defend. You will have 60 seconds of dusk when the vampires attack, followed by a brief respite of 20 seconds of dawn. And so that page is from our game jam. Since that point, our team has been working hard on rolling out a phase 2, whether that's new weapons, new rooms, new bosses. And I don't want to spoil it at all. You got to check it out yourself. So let's take a look at the awesome tutorial that my two older brothers have built out and start to get some ideas going in terms of how we want to score that. We're going to focus on the tutorial for today. So let's go ahead and click that. Pretty fortunate to have access so I can just go in here and get my hands dirty. The first thing I like to do is just walk through the tutorial in its entirety. Start to think about what is the basic soundscape that I want to try and create for this. Looks like we're just dropping into a room here. We got our friendly cowboy with an epic orange mustache and help me out. All right. Oh no, he lost the key. We can interact with this door by pressing F if we have enough doubloons, and we can go ahead and lock that and move into the new room. We got a vampire coming in. Okay, it's floating in on the left here, and it's trying to tear down our building. Nice, we got the revolver. Let's take this down. Vampire did some pretty serious damage on our windows, so we're able to walk up here and looks like press E to go ahead and repair that. We can also buy some turrets to help with our defenses by pressing F if we have enough doubloons. Super straightforward, very clear, gives you a nice layout for the different mechanics that you're going to be needing to use in the game, and looks like introduces you to maybe a character that you'll be interacting with at some point there too. So off the cuff, a couple thoughts that come to me as I'm thinking about how I want to score this tutorial. I want to ensure that the music doesn't interfere or compete with what the tutorial is trying to accomplish. I want it to be pretty subtle, tame, yet exciting and adventurous. Another thing I'm paying attention to is roughly how long we can expect the players to be in the tutorial. Playing it through just now looks like it took me a few minutes to get through it at a pretty comfortable pace. And so we want to think about what time frame we want our soundtrack to shoot for, and if we want that to be loopable. In the event that they're doing the tutorial, they need to go get a cup of coffee, or they leave the screen on, we want to ensure that there's no abrupt pause at the end, all syncs within one cohesive loop. In terms of soundscape, I'm really getting into trying to understand orchestral composition right now. So we're going to go ahead and use this tutorial as an opportunity to try and hone in on our skills there and give that a go. Let's jump into the DAW FL Studio and get cooking. So we're in FL Studio right now. That's the digital audio workstation. I prefer to work out of personally template built out here. I won't go into this in too much detail for today, just for the sake of time. This is built out referencing Alex McCullough's orchestral template that he has. So shout out to Alex. One important thing I forgot to mention is how I'm thinking about capturing the overall premise and theme. Given we're a cowboy down to his last stand, fighting off a horde of vampires, we want to do what we can to capture that feeling. A little bit vampiric, and I literally just saw Nosferatu, so we're definitely going to be pulling out the strings here. I want it to feel uneasy at times and build some tension, but I also want to create a little bit of a hero's journey towards the end. Ensure it has a nice pulse so that the player is continuing to work through the tutorial. I want to try and carry that momentum into the first level. Let's start at 140 BPM. We're just going to do 4/4 timing. We're going to start things off in C# minor. Just feel like that's the key I want to write in for today. So we're going to work through that. I don't want it to be too melodic, but I do want there to be some movement. So the strings I'm going to be using today are from Nucleus Lite. They're pretty affordable and really strong for beginners because they just have the ensembles. And so what I'm trying to do right now is get the ensemble sounding well, and then we can move on to the individual instruments. What if we did like bum, 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 bum. What if we layered that with a little bit of a polyrhythm? I like the way those are sitting with each other. We're going to use a pad from Augmented Strings. Okay, that's nice. Nice and tame. It's not going to take anything away from the strings that we got rocking. Just thinking about ways to keep the pace a very light ticking of the clock. Found this loop and chopped it up. Let's try layering some rhythm on top of that. But very tame. All right, I found this perk loop. I chopped it up, pitched it around just to get it to sit nicely. I'm going to use the Nucleus cellos. They have a nice sound. That's not it. I'm pretty tame, not too much movement, and I want to swell up some strings, get something down for something a little bit more in the higher register. Maybe something like a descending triplet. I think it might be cool to introduce some light brass towards the end as we're ramping up towards the epicness. If we started on the 5. I want to keep some atmospheric movement going, continue to build each bar. So here's a couple sounds I chopped up to try and create that. A bit of a spooky perk. We got a nice ping pong back and forth panning between left and right. Simple perk, very long tail and reverb. Just a pretty basic trailer hit. Want to get a little bit of drums in there. Nothing too crazy. He famously did the soundtrack for Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa. And so he built out this drum library that has a lot of really great sounds. So let's start to play around a little bit with that. Thinking like a bum 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 on the 1. Also want to do some spring percussion just leading into that. Okay, so we worked on some arranging. Add a little bit more percussion towards the end here. So I want to go for a nice finale here and then taper that off, tone it down so that it loops nicely back to the beginning. Build up the dynamics and expression of some of the higher strings, swell in the brass so that we have this moment hitting hard. Let's fade out here. I start to build it back up. So to test the loop, what we can do is export this as a WAV file, open up a brand new FL, that there's not an awkward cutoff. Let's give it a listen. I'm just paying attention to if this is looping or if there's any awkwardness or abrupt pauses. That'll do. Pretty high level overview of my creative process. A lot of different areas we can double click into follow-up videos diving into that a little bit deeper. Is the track perfect? Not even close. Did this take me longer than a few minutes to put together? Absolutely. Try and get a little better each and every day. Where I'm at as a beginner, starting to familiarize myself with the orchestral world, this will do. I think the track does a decent job delivering on the frame that I was going after, creates some feelings of adventure, so a little bit of uneasiness. The goal of the tutorial is to introduce the player so that they can quickly get into the game. I mean, come on, you're a cowboy down to his very last stand, trying to fight off a horde of zombies. You gotta have some ascending epicness in there. you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. What are your thoughts on what makes a great video game tutorial? You're designing the tutorial, what are some things that you think about? If you're a player and you can just think back to a game that you thought did a really good job, makes that experience great. What's the hook? Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.